Hey guys, Drifter here. Today we're going to be talking about cheaters in Delta Force, Team Jade's controversial kernel level anti-cheat, skill-based matchmaking being added to the game, and then finally at the end I wanted to talk about some interesting gun builds. Today you're going to see gameplay of me sniping, which is a rarity on this channel, a little bit of goofing around in vehicles, hosing people down with the machine gun, and a very fun hipfire SMG build. So without any further ado, let's jump right into it with something positive before we get to the negative stuff. And the positive thing is that Team Jade has decided to build cheater compensation into the game. What this means is that they've decided to compensate you if you get killed by a cheater. So if you, nobody in my audience would ever cheat or do such a thing, get killed by one of those nasty little hackers, you will be compensated for your losses, much like an insurance policy. I think this is an extremely forward-thinking and community-friendly approach, and I'm not aware of any other game really doing this. Unfortunately, it only applies to the extraction mode, but that makes sense because the extraction mode has much higher stakes than the battlefield mode, which is a lot of chaos. Now, I personally love that, but if you're playing extraction, you lose all of your loot when you die. So if you deploy into the hot zone with really high value loot that maybe it took you a long time to earn or unlock or buy, and you get killed by a cheater, you would instantly lose all of that very high value loot that you've been working for weeks or months. Except that the makers of Delta Force Team Jade have promised to compensate you by returning your lost items. This includes helmet, armor, backpack, weapons, and even ammo. I can't believe that's particularly valuable, but they're compensating you for that. And I think it's really good. So if you're in extraction mode and you get wasted by a cheater, somebody that followed you through a wall and then headshotted you or whatever, you don't lose all of that hard work you put into unlocking your loot. Unfortunately, again, there doesn't seem to be any kind of compensation for the battlefield mode. I was kind of hoping that if in that mode you died to a certain number of cheaters, that perhaps you could get weapon XP or regular XP tokens or something like that. And of course, all of this only applies to the cheaters that they catch. The ones that get away with it, you don't get compensated for, but here's the interesting thing. They've massively upgraded their anti-cheat to now have kernel level anti-cheat, which was very controversial in this game's new community and amongst the gaming community in general. The belief was that Delta Force had to roll out kernel level anti-cheat to stop the cheaters, which is the deepest level of anti-cheat that you can reasonably have on your computer, with the downside being that it gives them, as in the game development company, access to your PC at a very fundamental level. A lot of gamers are opposed to this for various reasons. Some of them believe that it opens up your system for vulnerabilities for hackers to exploit the kernel level anti-cheat at a later date. Some of them believe that it opens up your computer to potential malware or spyware or ad delivery or something like that from the company itself. And then finally, there is a belief that it is just a genuine invasion of your privacy, which means that Team Jade could, if they were malicious, evil, horrible, Scooby-Doo villain level actors, watch all of your spiciest cartoons that you would prefer to keep private. And I think the community complaints aren't entirely wrong. When you give a game company access to your computer at a kernel level in order to basically prove that you're not a cheater and get access to the greater online environment, you are trading freedoms for that. You are trading some system vulnerability. You are subjecting yourself to whatever the company thinks is appropriate for anti-cheat, and there is always the opportunity to be spied on. So again, these community complaints aren't wrong. They're just differences of opinion. And on the topic of opinion, I'll admit that I don't necessarily prefer kernel level anti-cheat on my computer because I'm a big privacy nerd. If you've watched all of the content on this channel, you would know that. I like to put as little spyware, malware, tracking cookies, all that kind of stuff on my computer as possible. But the nature of the modern world means that you have to engage with it in some way, and in this case, the kernel level anti-cheat probably is the most effective way to stop cheaters in Delta Force. It's also slowly becoming the industry standard, especially for first-person shooter games, because those have more cheaters than anything else. And I think that there may soon be a future where you can't play online games, at least not competitive ones, not big ones, without some form of kernel level anti-cheat on your console, PC, or mobile device. And the wild thing about this is where the community got really mad. I saved this spicy part for the middle, is that apparently, supposedly, this is not something that I have tested, so don't take it as the gospel true. This is just online news articles and discussions on Reddit, that the anti-cheat continues to run while the game is not running. i.e. if you are not playing Delta Force, your PC still has the kernel level anti-cheat on it. And supposedly, even if you uninstall the game, the anti-cheat will stay on your system and continue to run. You have to go through other steps to get rid of it. Now that feels very invasive. Again, this is not the gospel true. This is the sort of community discussion that I'm seeing. But I also saw in the Delta Force Discord, and this is also very unofficial, that supposedly those last two about running when you're not in game and running after you uninstall were bugs, and they're going to be fixed soon, especially that second one, for if you uninstall the game, the anti-cheat goes with it. So supposedly those are going to be fixed soon. We certainly hope that's the case, otherwise it feels a little bit creepy. We do have a discussion about skill-based matchmaking. This one is also purely opinion and not in any way based in fact or science, and is the opinion of streamers that I have been watching. The general consensus amongst very talented streamers that have very high skill levels is that the game does have some form of SBMM. The really competitive gamers that I watch are complaining that they're not being put into random lobbies, but are instead being put into really competitive lobbies with above average players, and this applies to both warfare and extraction modes. Again, this is not something that I have personally witnessed, but it is what many experienced gamers are currently claiming. And it takes a lot of science for those feels to become reals, but feels are a good start. So there is something, we'll just say something stinks in Denmark here in regards to that. And I will say that I personally have not experienced any skill matching in this game at all, but I'll also admit that due to my disability, I have only played a handful of games, and I'm extremely casual at this game. As many of you have seen, I literally stream from a bed with a 4-inch mouse space at my hip, so I'm not exactly an elite gamer anymore. Honestly, most of the casual dad gamers out there are probably better than me. But that does lead into our final topic, which is accessibility and weapon customization. Because if you are a disabled gamer, or if you have some problems, or if you just want to approach this game a different way, there's some really interesting ways to do that through weapon and control customization. As a brief TLDR about me, my hands have taken some damage, so I can't game for super long periods of time, and I also can't sit upright for super long periods of time either. So I thought about trying to find ways to make Delta Force more mechanically simple and approachable for me and my accessibility needs, and I came up with two interesting solutions, both of which worked pretty well. The first one is by far the easiest. It's just snipe. Just snipe. Don't rush in, don't play assault, don't heal people, don't be active. Just sit in the back of the map and snipe. You don't have to be nearly as mobile in general. You have a lot less movement to make. The game does have options even for toggle ADS and toggle lean. I think they're on by default. I turn them off a lot because I want to kind of make my controls mirror Call of Duty. But if I want to sit in the back of the map and snipe, I only have to click once on the mouse, and I don't have to constantly hold it down or constantly hold the keys down to lean. I can just toggle them on and off and take pot shots as long as I feel like. It's quite easy to sit in the back of the map and go for long shots. And it was really fun, except for the part where I'm terrible at sniping. I almost never snipe in any FPS game that I play, and instead choose to go with either bum rushing people or some sort of lobbed projectile. To give an example, in Overwatch, where I eventually worked my way up to Master, I believe, I could never hit anything with Widowmaker. Not the first, just awful, god-awful nothing. But I could literally snipe people with Pharah. I could even shoot other Pharahs out of the sky, or with Junkrat, with my little lobbed bombs, hit them out of the sky. There's just something about lobbed projectiles that my brain likes, and something about sniper shots that it hates. And I know that in a game like this you have bullet travel time, so it's technically a lobbed projectile, but there's just something about it that doesn't agree with me. And the final thing that I wanted to do, since I got a little bit bored with sniping, is get a little bit better at rushing. And I really struggle with tracking and being fast and quick on the draw and stuff like that. So I had this goofy idea that since Delta Force kind of wants to take over Battlefield's spot, and the gameplay is highly reminiscent of Battlefield, that maybe there's a way to play this game like Battlefield 1, which was extremely hipfire heavy, and I tried to max hipfire build. I went with the SMG-45, which was the best hipfire weapon that I had currently unlocked, and I basically put on every single attachment that increases the accuracy stat, which is your hipfire. A little weird on that, but the accuracy stat on the gun bar, that's how tight your hipfire spread is. I used all my XP tokens, unlocked as much stuff as I could, set all of the attachments to maximize that accuracy stat, did some calibrations to even go further, and then put some other ones on there to try to minimize other negative performance impact from making such a hipfire laser weapon. And I was really happy to see that it worked well. You've probably already seen a lot of gameplay from it, but much like Battlefields past, you can absolutely play hipfire only in this game. It's very easy to kit your weapon for this. You don't need that many attachments. It's very easy to aim. It makes aiming way simpler and helps you maintain a lot of mobility while pushing. If you're playing the assault guy, you can knee slide in hipfire as well. And I think you could go even harder than I did with later unlock SMGs and perhaps even more attachments and more customizations. My gun was only like level 36 out of 60 something, so there was a ton more stuff that I could have put on it. I didn't even have it close to max level. And interestingly, I've seen streamers put tac lasers on their assault rifles so that the assault rifles can rapidly be swapped to a very tight hipfire, like over-the-shoulder tactical stance, just on the fly mid-game. And that also seems to be very effective. I was watching people get lasered with that today. Now, I put all of my points in working on the SMGs. I didn't go for the assault rifle, so I guess I goofed on that. But the point is that there's a lot of ways to play this game. If you take the time to customize your weapons, calibrate them, level them up, it makes a big difference. These attachment effects are not small. Putting the right attachments on your weapon is really make or break here. There is a massive benefit for taking 30 to 40 minutes to customize your gun. Guys, that is all for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.